Welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, where we unlock the secrets to level up in all areas of life. I'll be interviewing some of the world's top performers in their fields so that you can uncover and learn the strategies that have led to their overall success and apply it to your own life. John, you've often showcased the importance of mindset in achieving peak performance. Can you share some practical strategies that you've helped individuals to implement and cultivate that winning mindset in both their professional and personal lives?
Yeah, mate, it's an interesting one. In fact, it was very funny that you should ask me that question today, because just 2 mornings ago, I had breakfast with the legendary Michael Conlon, who's a brilliant fella. Everyone affectionately knows him around Melbourne as Mickey Conlon, and what a beast of an athlete he was. Now, Mick is 65 now. When he first started playing football at Fitzroy, he was a plasterer. And then he went on to become country CEO of major sport brands like Reebok, Nike in 3 different countries. And I said, and I know he trains every day, and I just said to him, what time does your day start, Mick? And he said, I get out of bed at 3:20. And he said, you know the secret, Johnny? People ask me how you can possibly feel awake at that time of day. He said, well, the first thing I do is turn on the coffee machine. And the second thing I do is get under a freezing cold shower for 30 seconds. And then his day plays out. He does some preparation, goes to his home gym, works out for 30 minutes, runs to the Brighton Sea Baths, to the yacht club, and he switches on the sauna and he steps outside at 4:45. There's a guy there waiting for him. They go for a run, come back, go for a swim in the bay, 365 days of the year. They swim 650 metres. And by 6:15, he's having coffee up at Church Street, Brighton. And I thought about that, and really there is nothing more powerful than a decision. The challenge is that most people aren't able to make decisions. They make choices between options. But that's living your life in response to your circumstances. A decision is where you look beyond your circumstances and say, this is what I want. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to achieve, or this is the person that I want to be. And when you get really clear on that, and it's genuine, that you feel it in your heart, and it's not just a wonderful idea in your head that thinks going to impress everybody, but it's something that you really feel in your heart, then you can make a decision. And if you get to the point where the decision becomes a reality, then you step into that high performance mode. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to keep yourself honest from that point.
I love that, John. My philosophy and formula is discipline increases self-worth. If you multiply that by healthy habits, it increases your energy output. And if we are all energy as human beings, then this is going to increase our time output, which is everyone's most valuable resource.
Right.
John, when integrating mental and physical health practices into a life of a high-functioning individuals who was already time poor and overwhelmed and stressed, how would you approach this?
Well, I think that it's really interesting, the whole time poor thing, because it's not transactional. See, I remember back when I was a lot younger, trading sleep for more time to work. But after a number of years of that, and I got very good at functioning on 4 hours sleep a night, I realized that, number one, it was impacting my health, and it was impacting my just the brightness of my energy during the day, and it was impacting my productivity. And I realized I actually had to stop worrying so much about the amount of time I had during the day and put attention on how I could improve the quality of my time during the day. So that means attending to the things that need to be attended to, like getting a lot more sleep. Number 2, instead of grabbing quick food, taking time to cook food and eat properly. 3, spending the right amount of time with my loved ones as I possibly could, so that then when I was working, I wasn't sitting there with feelings of regret about the things I should be doing, or I wasn't feeling sapped of energy because I wasn't getting enough sleep or my health wasn't good enough. It's really about prioritization. And if you put the pressure that's being applied to you by your work circumstance, whether it be by people who you're answerable to, or to the share market, or to customers or whatever, if you put that stress at the top of your list of priorities, you will never have enough time.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with them, you won't be fully present. You'll be reactive, and you'll say the wrong things, or you'll make bad decisions. But when you put the other things at the top of the list and prioritize those and get those in order, then when you're actually sitting at work, you can put all of your attention on what is needed to be done, and you'll be very, very clear in your thinking. Your intuition will be available to you, and you'll move through your challenges with much greater efficiency. You'll be more like a hot knife going through butter than, an ice pick trying to pick away at a big block of ice, And a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, that's fancy thinking." It's not. It's reality. You ask a soldier how hard it is to be a soldier when they haven't had enough sleep, or if they haven't heard from their loved ones. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. John, I love that. And I sort of like to think about, a peak performing life being built on a foundation. If someone's not sleeping, they're not going to have the cognitive ability to get the work done. They're going to work longer hours. So that means they're going to be unfulfilled. So I believe it's like, someone trying to build a house on sand. And, if you're building this foundation on sand, eventually it's going to sink, and you need that foundation around, sleep and nutrition, exercise, and mindset, because then the solid foundation is there. And it's about putting
So true, mate.
first.
So true. And I think getting a real handle on what's really real. There's an old Viking proverb that I've just loved always. It says, "A stupid man lays awake at night thinking about his problems. And when morning comes, his problems are still there and he's tired."
I love that. I'm going to use that one, John.
Cool.
John, many high achievers face mental burnout and mental blocks. What are some common barriers you've seen, and how have you helped clients overcome these to reach their peak performance?
Okay, your listeners might not like my answers to this, but I'm going to give it to you straight. Burnout is an integrity problem. Let me expand on that a little bit. Let's just say you're CEO of a company and you've been given a very clear directive as to what you need to achieve, and you've negotiated your salary, and you get into the job and you realize there's all these other fires burning that you didn't know about, and then you take it on because you're CEO, that you've got to handle all that sort of thing, and all of a sudden you're not going home at night, and you're not sleeping, and you're missing your exercise and that sort of thing. Well, the reason that you're in that space is because you didn't stop and have the courage to speak up and say to the board, "Excuse me, but our agreement has gone off the rails. These things, they weren't part of my agreement. So we need to renegotiate this agreement right now." And keep it clear. Communicate. Don't be a victim of your circumstances or the things going on around you. You can't do that. You've got to follow your own moral code. And if you don't have a strong moral code, you better get to building one. Because when you're out of integrity with yourself, then you're resisting your life. And when you're resisting your life, if somebody wants to know how fatiguing resistance is, just pick up a 25 kilogram barbell and stand up straight and hold it above your head and stop it falling on your head. See how long you last. That's what resistance is. That will tire out your whole body. And so it's so crucial that we be really, really clear in what we take on what we accept, what we agree to, and then making sure that when we're in an agreement that everybody's keeping their end of that agreement. Because if you don't speak up, well, then you deserve whatever comes to you. It's just how it is.
I love people that are raw and real, because they're the best people to have in your life. If you got spag bowl on your face, someone's going to tell you that you have it on there, and people need people like you in their life, John.
Well, the funny thing was, though, mate, my ex-wife, she was a bit too raw and real like that for me sometimes. And I remember we went out once, and as you can see, I don't have a lot of hair, and I do my own hairdressing with a pair of clippers. And we went to a function, and I had missed a bit on the back of my head. And as we walked into the function, she goes, "Oh, you missed a bit when you cut your hair." I didn't need to know that then.
Love it.
Yeah.
John, I believe starting the day in the present moment, will also snowball into your day. What does a typical morning look like for you in terms of maintaining mental and physical health?
Yeah, it's a good one. So my alarm goes off at 3:59 a.m. I tune into the 4 a.m. news, not because I'm a news lover, but I just want to know if there's anything big happening in the world. Other than that, I don't watch news. Then I get out of bed. I'm out of bed by 4:15. I go to the kitchen, turn on the coffee machine, fill up a litre bottle of filtered water, 1 minute cold shower, dry off, into the kitchen, drink the water, take my supplements, make a coffee, sit down at my computer, check what correspondence come in overnight because I work globally. And then somewhere around 5:30, I'll pull on the runners and I'll either go for a run or I'll go to the gym. Come back, breakfast, shower, the day is set up.
I love, John, just little things like just having a 1 minute cold shower. Obviously the science behind that is it helps you with your parasympathetic nervous system, but it also sets up your day for mental resilience. Like, if I can jump in a cold shower for 1 minute, I can take on anything this day. So I love little habits like that.
Well, yeah, because what it does is it overcomes my laziness, it overcomes my sookiness, you know, and it does. It wakes your will up. It's like if you can make that decision to step under a freezing cold shower and not flinch and stay under there for a minute, well, then, you've started your day in decision-making mode.
I love that, John.
Yeah.
Um, John, after surveying data on 400 high achievers, we found the most common issues were undereating and high stress. Do you think there's a link between these two things?
Well, look, it's certainly, I know some people who, when they get really, really stressed, they produce a lot of acid in their stomach and they just can't eat. They're just too tense. But then there's others I know who overeat because it creates comfort for them with their stress. But I think it tends to be the high achievers who struggle to eat. I think you can look at that from two ways. You can say, oh, they should eat more. Or you could say to yourself, why am I creating so much of a stress response in what I do? Because stress is really interesting. The fight or flight syndrome is all about physical survival. So let's just say, for example, you live in Africa and you're walking through the jungle one day and all of a sudden you're confronted by a very big cat and it's growling at you and it looks a bit hungry. Well, within microseconds, your adrenal glands have pumped a huge amount of adrenaline into your system. And within microseconds, your heart rate is rising, your respiration rate is rising, the blood vessels in your upper body are closing down and the blood vessels in your legs are opening up. And the final thing that happens is your bowels evacuate to dispense with any additional load, which is where the term shit yourself came from. And you're ready to run for your life. Now, one of two things happens. Either the cat catches you and kills you and eats you, which means you have no more problems, or you get away. And if you get away, you've got no residual symptoms because the intensity with which you ran burned off all that adrenaline. The problem is that if we don't handle our ego, whenever our ego is confronted, the thing that we fear is humiliation. And the fear of humiliation brings the same fight or flight response. Bingo. And if you don't then jump on a treadmill and run like crazy for 10 or 15 minutes, you're not going to burn off that adrenaline, and it becomes accumulative during the day and you just feel stressed all the time. So the trick that I say to people there is you've got to reclaim your humility. Stop being a know-it-all and a big head and a self-aggrandizer. Stop asserting how brilliant you are. Come back to your humanity and be a kind and noble leader who people trust and who people feel good being around. And then you'll be able to live within the limits of your own moral compass, and you won't ever create a situation where you feel threatened. Then you won't have the stress. Now, that takes a bit of a journey, but that's a spiritual path, you know. And a lot of people have abandoned spiritual path in the quest for wealth, but that's dumb. That's really, and I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about waking up your humanity and becoming a deeply decent human being who people trust and who people know they can rely on.
Yeah. I love that, John. And my philosophy, and it took me a few years to get it, is a lot of people use the words achieve and success, but a lot of men like you use the word contribute, because we can try and achieve and succeed and try and climb that mountain. And it's always, there's always another level. But when we contribute, that gives us true fulfillment. And I think, like, back to the stress and nutrition, like, just a couple of science-based things, like when you're stressed, your brain actually shrinks. That means you're not going to have the best cognitive ability. And when you're stressed, your body doesn't absorb nutrients. So you could sit down to have a meal, and your body's not actually going to absorb the minerals. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Very true, mate. Very true.
John, as a thought leader in performance enhancement, what emerging trends or innovations in mental and physical health do you foresee impacting the approach of performance in the coming years?
Well, that's another interesting one. I know that there is a lot of attention on burnout now. And it seems to be that that attention is being applied to companies to get companies to change things to reduce the risk of their people suffering from burnout. Now, that might be helpful, but I'd say that's 30% of the equation. So I feel like when we're heading down that path, we're going to realize that it's not going to work. And so this then comes back to how we help human beings develop. And we know that in our Western societies, we've moved away from religion, which can be a good or bad thing. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on it. But one thing I do know is that people no longer sit in church on a Sunday morning and have some wise person up in the pulpit talking to them about how they conduct their life, you know. So people are traveling through life without spiritual instruction. But on the other hand, we're seeing more and more and more people starting to talk about that as an essential element in human life. And I feel like one of the significant trends that's going to really emerge, and I feel like it's just starting now, is that companies will be employing people to come in more often and talk to their people and provide education about these areas, how to become a more self-directed, personally responsible human being. Because you see, it's really interesting. Perhaps it's the TikTok generation, the Instagram generation. We're seeing people have mental health issues as victims.
Yeah.
And, you know, the pharmaceutical industry learned how to capitalize on disease by making it out that people were victims of disease, victims of heart attack, victims of diabetes. What they're avoiding is the fact that through their lifestyles, these people were creating their own disease. Richard Carmona, who is the 17th Surgeon General of the United States, and who's one of my colleagues at the Global Wellness Institute, put it beautifully. He said, the US spends 19% of GDP on healthcare, and 80% of that is spent treating completely preventable diseases. And the same thing goes for mental health conditions. There's very, very, very few people who have actually got a condition, a mental health condition that you could say is medical. But what we're learning is that people have learned how to get a lot of power out of playing victim. Probably the most powerful words a person can utter in a workplace right now is, I'm offended, because it rips the rug out from underneath everybody else. Whereas what somebody needs to do is sit down with them and say, well, you're offended. Big deal. Why are you offended? How can you improve yourself to the point where those sorts of things don't offend you? That's the path. I think we're being pushed into that path, because treating people as victims is not working, and it's costing hundreds of millions of dollars in stress claims.
I 100% agree with that. I do believe there has to be a balance with everything you've talked about with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I think there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, I'm not going to, eat organic food because I'm not a hippie, or I'm not going to sit there and be present because I'm not a yogi. And it's just things that we're meant to do as human beings. We're not meant to be in this life of distraction all the time. And it's about like moving from distraction to presence. It's where you're actually really living your life. But
yeah, mate. And people who say that, they're not good at being present, or, they don't know how to do it, or they haven't got enough time to do that. Watch them on a date with somebody they'd really like to be in a relationship with. They know how to be present.
Yeah.
It's a choice, right?
It is. I think this has probably been one of the best podcasts I've done. But look, I really appreciate you, John. JT, it's really nice to meet you.
Thanks, Michael. You too, mate. Good luck with that little fella.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Bye, mate. Lots of love.
Yep.
Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you found the discussion useful. Our goal is to positively impact the well-being of 1 million people's lives just like you by sharing the experience and knowledge of some of the world's top performers. So you don't miss out on any key strategies to help you succeed, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And if you think you may know someone that would benefit from this episode, join us in our mission of impacting 1 million lives and share it with your friends.